Join me as I show you how to do this very simple yet elegant looking vintage swag necklace. We're going to start out with right angle weave with some 2mm and 4mm beads, and then we're going to go in and just zigzag around the project. If you need any materials, go ahead and look below the video in the description. We'll put links there to get back to our website so you can gather your supplies. Once you have your supplies, let's get ready to get started. So the first thing we're going to do for this swag necklace to get that nice effect is actually going to be right angle weave. And I have my base beads, which are going to be the beads in the middle of that right angle weave, which we're going to form with 11/0 seed beads, 2mm bicones, and 4mm pearls. To begin, I'm going to create right angle weave units. The right-hand side of my right angle weave unit, and I'm using size 6 dragon thread with a size 11, 12 or 11 needle will work, is putting on a stop bead. Now I'm using 5 feet and I'm not worrying too much about how much thread is left at the base after my stop bead because I'm going to be coming back down the necklace, so I'm going to add on my clasp at that point. Right here I have one 11/0 seed bead followed by one of my 2mm in that vintage rose color, followed by an 11/0 seed bead, and that's going to be the right side of my box. The top and bottom of my box is going to be the jet AB. So I'm going to do a top, and then we're going to do the other side, which is going to be the right side. The same thing, this side, you want to think of it as 3 beads in one, that it is that 11/0, crystal 11/0, and then we're going to build the bottom of our box, which is going to be a 2mm in the AB. From here, we're going to sew back through the left side of the box, which is going to be that 11 to 11. We're going to sew through then what is the top of the box. So see how after we send and sew through that, we have that little box already. We're going to sew through the right-hand side of the box, or sorry, the top of the box rather, and then we're going to sew down through the right-hand side of the box. For this baseline of right angle weave, we want to make sure that our thread and needle is always coming out the right-hand side of the last right angle weave unit that we have created. So here's our first right angle unit. This side, which is the seed beads and the light crystal, top and bottom. We're going to alternate. And the next one, the bottom, because we're coming out what is going to be the new left side of box number 2, is the right side of box number 1. We're going to build a bottom bead, which is going to be our pearl. And then we need a new side, and this one's going to be our right side of this new box, which is the 11, light crystal 11. And then the top is going to be our 4mm pearl. We're going to sew into the top of the right-hand side from the previous unit, because our thread's coming out the bottom. We're sewing into the top and then bringing our needle and thread down. Once we do so, it creates our next box. Now you can see I'm in between the first box and the second box, or the first right angle unit and the second, and I need to get over to the right-hand side in order to do my third box. So this time I'm going to sew through the bottom pearl, and then once again, always sewing through the right-hand side of the box you just completed, through the 11, 2mm crystal 11. Now right angle weave is going to happen that every other right angle weave unit, you're going to go from the top or the bottom. So the last one, our thread was coming out the bottom of the right side. This one is our thread is coming out the top of the right side. We're going to switch our pattern back to our 2mm jet for the top bead, our combo of 3 beads for the right, our jet for the bottom of this box, and we're always going to sew into the opposite side of where the thread is coming out on the right-hand box that you've just completed. That then switches to the left side of the new box we've created. So through the top, and then once again, you want to come out the right-hand side of the box. So we're going to sew through that right-hand side down to the bottom. When we're there, you can see we're at the bottom, and now we're going to just simply repeat. You're going to repeat this pattern of this single row of right angle weave for approximately 16 to 18 inches, depending on how long you want your collared necklace to be. Again, we're creating our next box. I have my pearl and then my new right side and then my pearl coming down through the top because the thread's coming out the bottom. And that completes this right angle unit. Once again, sew all the way through. So you're coming out of that right hand side and you're going to continue on again until you get that baseline about 16 inches of beads in that right angle design. Once you have your 16 to 18 inches of your right angle weave, we are going to add a wire guard and some chain, because I'm going to put an extension chain and have a lobster clasp going along with it. I want to add, coming out of the last right angle unit, which I'm making one of my smaller units, meaning my 2mm bead versus my pearl. Put on there 2 11 seed beads, followed by one of your 4mm pearls, followed by one wire guard, wire guardian, wire protector. We usually call them wire guards. You're going to bring your thread and needle down the other side of the wire guard, and you can attach directly to the chain. I'm just making this consistent because on the other side, I'm going to use a wire guard to attach the lobster. You're going to sew through the end of your chain there, and I can cut down the chain after the fact if I don't want it that long. And I'm going to sew then back through the pearl. From here then, add 2 more of your 11 seed beads. And just like the right angle weave, we're going to go into the opposite side of the right-hand side of that box. So our thread's currently coming out the bottom. I'm going to add those beads and then sew through the top and out. You can see what that does is makes a nice closing end that has a nice professional look. We're going to reinforce that as well. So we're going to sew back up through the pearl, making sure that you always have at least 2 thread passes or two strands of thread going through where your clasp is. 3 is even better. And see how that wire guard is a little bit open and you can see a little bit of thread? You can either usually press with your hands, pressing that together to close it up a little bit, or go in and just gently press with your pliers to close that up to give it a tighter look. From here, then go back down through your plier. And at this point, we are done with our lighter colored 2mm bead. So I'm done with that vintage rose color. And I'm going to go through those 2 beads on the opposite side here. We're going to go down through the right angle weave along the side. We're going to go through the bottom here, baseline, and we are going to come through that bead there on the top, which we are going to flip to the bottom. We're going to get ready now to add in some 6mm pearls with some additional seed beads and more of our 2mm jet beads at the top. From here, we're going to get ready to add our 6mm beads, and I'm coming out the right-hand side towards the bottom of the first pearl unit. I'm going to add 1, 2, and 3 11 seed beads, followed by 1 6mm pearl, 1, 2, 3 seed beads. We're going to skip over the pearl and we're going to the left side of the right angle weave. So here we're coming out the bottom of the right side of this pearl unit. We're going to go from the bottom towards the top of the left side of that same pearl unit. Now you can make this longer if you want to and make it hang down further, completely up to you. That pearl then is going to sit right at the base there and right at the bottom. Little idea, you could, if you wanted to, decorate this more. For the holiday season, you can make it into a snowman and do a bigger bead along the bottom there. Here along the top, we're going to go back to our 2 grouping of our 11 seed beads, followed by 1 more of our 2mm Bicone in the jet color, followed by 2 more seed beads. Coming out the top of that right angle unit, we're going to go into the left side and go from the top to the bottom. And you can see that's just going to decorate the top. When we're coming out on the right angle unit on the right hand side of the pearl unit, we add 3 11 seed beads, followed by a 6mm bead, which you could change up to be a crystal if you want a little shine, and then 3 of your 11 seed beads again, up to the top and up through the right side of the piece. And you can see now what we're doing is we're establishing a top and a bottom here. We have our 2 11s and a 2mm and 2 11s when we're on the top, and we always are just sewing down through the right or the left sides of our box. When we're at the top, 2 beads and one of our matching beads. When we're at the bottom, 3 beads and a match in a bigger color, or a bigger size rather. 3 more beads and then back up. So it's a very, very easy process to get our bottom portion on And you're going to be amazed how quickly that moves from the bottom to the top, the whole way down through those 16 to 18 inches. Once you finish hanging down the end of your pearls here, you're going to go back and do the same thing that you did on that starter side, where you're going in, and after the last one here, you're going to add 2 beads up through a pearl. I'm going to attach a lobster on this side here with just a jump ring. So I am attaching right away, right to that wire guard, going up through it, reinforcing it. And then we still have one more pass to do, adding some seed beads around our drops. And that is a very, very simple process that we are going to begin creating. Now I have worked ahead a little bit, so I'm going to show you how I started and then show you the process as we continue. So here I am doing my double through here, reinforcing, and you can see that I already have my swag hanging on the bottom, which is just 10 beads. So how am I getting there? I'm going up through the project, down through, and out through the 3 beads along the side here. When I'm out through the 3 beads, we're adding 10 beads and going up through the 3 beads along the side and then through the 2 millimeter. So here I am kind of working around here. I'll show you guys how this is going to work. Right here. As you can see, I've added some thread and hopped ahead a little bit. When you come down the side here, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are coming through that 2 millimeter jet bead. So you're going to come through the 2 millimeter jet bead and out. So you're only going through the 2 millimeter jet. You're then going to go down through the 3 beads that sit prior to the 6 millimeter. So you're going from the jet through those 3 beads. When you're down and out those 3 beads along the side of that 6 millimeter pearl, you pick up 10 beads. You're going up through the 3 beads that sit on the opposite side of the pearl. So right out through there. Once you're out through there, those 10 beads hang right along the bottom. Again, if you want to jazz it up, you can add something else hanging along the bottom, add a crystal, add some charms hanging down. You can really kind of make it your own. You can even come back through and hang a second swag down. Lots of options, challenging you, if you're not a member already, to join our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making and post your pictures of your Victorian swag there. After coming out through those 3 seed beads before the 6, you're going into the 2 millimeter and continuing on. Oh, so simple. Going down through the 3 beads next to the 6 millimeter. I say simple, but trying to keep it in focus here. I'm going to switch it to the angle. Bend it to the side here, go through those 3 beads, out through those 3 beads, add 10 more up through the 3 on the opposite side, and continue to get your little swag hanging down from the beads. To show also, you can keep it empty. That's completely up to you. I liked that Victorian section and the Victorian look that the drops gave with the seed beads here. Again, if you want to change it up, you could do some 15s if you don't want it to be as pronounced. Add a 2 millimeter crystal down to the bottom there. If you wanted to bring some of that shine or bling, you could also do that as well. So change it up and have fun with that. Once you go in then and finish doing all of your little swag drops there, you're going to take this opportunity, because your needle and thread is back down at that starter end near, or that ending end rather, near the chain. I'm going to reinforce one more time, because remember we did 2 times. So use this up as an opportunity to get a 3rd strand of thread going in there, especially because it's not a very light necklace. It's got a little heft to it with so many beads hanging down here. Coming back down the wire guard then and back down through the pearl, I'm going to knot off the thread. And how are you going to knot off the thread? Is a good question. So what you're going to do is go into an area underneath what's called a bridge thread. I'm going to do the first one here next to a white bead because it's white thread. And I'm going to sew underneath what's called a bridge thread, or a thread that connects one bead to another. From here, I make a little loop sewing underneath that bridge thread. So it's not through any beads or anything, it's just sewn around the thread. I'm going to sew through that loop once. I'm going to sew through that loop twice. We're going to make a little sewer's knot, it's called. See how it's almost doubled around that loop? Pull nice and tight, and you can barely see it. From here, go ahead and take your thread and needle elsewhere into your design. I like to do a second sewer's knot somewhere, and then take my thread and needle somewhere else and burn it down with my thread end. So go here, you're going underneath that bridge thread. I'm sorry, my tail's in the way, it makes it a little bit difficult to see. And we're going to create that loop. Bring it back up here so you can see it. Create that little loop right there, going underneath the bridge thread. I pull my thread in so it's not as small. Go through it once. Go through it twice. Grab that nice and tight. See how that knot then gets pulled right in tight there. And then we are going to take my thread and needle somewhere else into the design. Not backwards, because then that kind of undoes the thread and gives a little gap. Separate it further around. And then you're going to go in and just burn it down with your thread end. And that finishes up your beautiful collar necklace. Thanks so much for joining me in creating this vintage swag collared necklace. I like the extender chain because you can do it at multiple different lengths, depending on if you have a lower cut shirt or if you have something a little bit longer for the winter that you can lay it on top of. You can do so many adjustments to this. Make sure to post your photos again in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. And if you need the materials, go ahead and look below the video in the description to get back to our site. Thanks so much for watching, Potomac Beaders, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.